Hi everybody, welcome back to week 2 of watercolor class doing architecture, and I'm happy to join you today while you're painting along with me at your own pace. This is wonderful that you get to just listen to my videos and look at my slides and just take your time with this, because watercolor does take time. So I wanted to show you a print of a barn. So we are doing barns today, and we're not going to get too much into the perspective part of it. We're going to hold off on that till next week, but I do want to now kind of zoom out from the doors and windows and really take a look at the edifice itself and all the shapes that are involved. And this happens to be Georgia O'Keeffe's particular drawing and painting of a barn. I don't think she did too many of them, but when she finally moved out to the Southwest, she noticed they do dot the landscape, right? In those nice warm colors. Actually, I think this one was probably done on the East Coast. Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to tilt my screen down here, my camera, so that you can take a better look and follow along. So we are going to be working, I'm going to be working horizontally, and by now you would have picked up a picture of a barn that you like. And I have in front of me, happen to have a photograph that was taken in Virginia of a barn. And at one point I did draw another barn and watercolored it, but this time, and it's gone, it's flown the coop. So I'm going to do another one, all right? So you're going to need to have your ruler handy for some straight lines and an HB pencil. I got my gum eraser, my kneadable eraser. I've got my brushes on hand that we talked about from last week. Mostly this is my go-to, my number 6 for most of the work. I did already prep the back of my paper by giving it 2 squirts, and then I went like this over the back of the paper. I waited for it to dry, turned it over, and then I taped it down. Just because I know I'm going to be picking this up from time to time and moving around, you do not have to tape it down. It does give a nice border when I actually peel the tape. So, but I think working in watercolor, it's kind of nice to kind of keep things taped down. I have my palette from last week. It still has the crimson and the phthalo blue, and it's got the new gamboge and the burnt sienna. So we're just kind of sticking to those things for now. Okay, so we're back, and we are ready to start drawing in our landscape with the barn. And I'm just going to note where the tree line is back here. I'm going to draw in the tree line, and I'm going to draw in the snow, and I'm going to start to put in the barn itself, so I know that there's a straight line going here, and then it kind of turns a little bit to get the snow off the roof, like that. So I've happened to have visited this farm. I kind of know where this is. I have done this painting in oils and in acrylics, but I had not done one in watercolor, so it's about time. All right. When we get together the following week, we will work on perspective. But for now, I want you to kind of size up. So there's like a trapezoid shape. There's another trapezoid shape. So talk to yourself about the types of shapes that you're drawing and really observe. So this trapezoid, these two are not parallel lines, right? Because there is some kind of little perspective going on. And there's this little rectangular shed going off the end. You may not be able to see this that close up while I'm drawing. I'm trying not to push too hard on the paper because I don't want those pencil lines to show up in my painted area. Okay, so this is going to be one of those little windows that we talked about from last week. Oh, you guys did such a good job on your windows. Some of them had glass, some were little openings that I got to see your landscape in the background. Okay, so now we're zooming out a little bit further and we are actually working on the barn itself. So I have another little window in here. It's funny when you look at barn structure, I just don't know how, when you just dealt with what you had on hand, so this barn happens to be over 100 years old, like how they kept things in line, and you know, some things were a little bit larger than others. I'm already off a little bit, but that's not the point. I don't want to be exact. I just want to get my drawing on there. No, I don't even have to use my ruler. Okay. All right, so I got a roof. I got the face of the house. This would be the door where the animals go in. I could draw this little fence gate that probably keeps the animals out, and I could do another one over here that keeps the animals out, that I know I'm going to be doing eventually. And for the sake of time, not sure I'm going to do this whole fence in the front today, because you're going to kind of get the gist of what's going on. But I do have a fence that goes like that. It's inside the pen. Yeah, we just want to give an idea of what this barnyard is kind of like. Yeah? Okay, so I've got to do some masking. So I want to get that started because I got a lot to do today. Watercolor does take time. I'm going to lighten all the lines. Now you probably can't see them. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to. But I don't want to have to try to erase them later. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this masking kind of like a dam. I really don't care if sky gets into my mountains, but I don't want my tree line getting into my snow. So I'm going to put a line there. And I know that this is going to be a snow-covered roof, so I definitely need to put a line of masking right along the roof line. I chose a snow scene because it's so hot out. It makes me feel colder. And I typically work in color, so this is good for me to practice outside my comfort zone. You want to stretch yourself at every chance you get to try something you don't normally do. That's why I'm glad you're joining me today. Maybe this is your first time drawing a barn. Maybe you're more into drawing flower pots, so this will be good for you. Okay, so this is going to be a snow-covered roof. Oh, I got a little snow-covered roof up here. So anything that's white in your picture that you want to maintain as white, go ahead and block that in. I might just go ahead and just fill that whole little thing in so I don't get tempted to go over it. Now I'm going to put some along the ground so that I kind of keep this as a big white snowbank. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And maybe at the bottom of this gate. Yeah. I think you get the gist now of what we're trying to accomplish by damming everything off. Creating a way for the water to not flow into it. I also have this interesting effect that's going on where when I took the shot, the wind was blowing the snow off the roof, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and mask that right now. Because I might have a hard time getting it back to the white on my first couple of layers. There's a big white cloud over here, so I'm going to go ahead and mask him out. And there's some snow on the far mountains in the background. I know, you really got to study your picture and say, because you might have had, like I had in the last window scene, I had like lamps in there, and that was going to be tough to get that light source back after I'd already done the dark window panes. Okay, there's also this tree in my picture, so if I have this tree standing up and there's little pieces of white on there, I'm just going to go ahead and block that, so that's already done. Anywhere else I see? I don't think so. I think I'm all good. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I need to let that dry for a second, and we will be right back. Just keep on putting some of that purple in there. Barns are probably the one thing people always tend to paint. You'll see a lot of them as subject matter. When I started doing some barn painting, I was contacted by a group up in the Northeast who was like, "We just like to carry your art and sell prints of it." And I don't know. I like doing just one original. Moving on to the next thing. Okay, so this area too is just kind of splotchy, all dead trees. So I'm using kind of the side of my brush now. I don't care if it gets into my barn because my barn is going to be a darker color. So just kind of splashing it every which way. But I'm going to show you a really cool technique that I could do with my Aquarel brush. Okay, because I can, while it's wet, kind of stripe through it. And create some interesting things in the background. You could use a razor blade, or you could use a stick to scrape with, or a credit card. You don't need to have this. It'll only work when it's wet, obviously. So that's giving me some of those little branches in the very back. The idea for me is not to make it exactly like my photograph. I mean, I could if I wanted to. But for me, it's more about giving it the painterly effect. Alrighty then, so I left some white areas. See, now you don't have to fill everything in. You can leave white areas that I didn't bother masking, and that could just be snow in a faraway pasture. Alright, now I'm going to start putting on my first layer of craziness on my barn. So I mixed up some of the red, the blue, a little sienna in there. And I'm going to make my first pass at the barn. Now I love doing weathered old wood, so I'm going to paint in the way that it was laid out. Like I'm doing stripes. Do you see that? doing stripes. I don't care if it gets in my window because that's going to be a darker value anyway. Stripes, so I can push as heavy as I want, or I can go pencil thin. This is just the first layer of making the beaded boards. I'm going to go right over this lovely looking gate because I know that the gate's going to be a little bit darker in value. Isn't it fun making a structure? Try to make sure you've picked a picture that's head on, right? You don't want to pick something at this point that's on its, you see both sides of it, like in my painting here. We'll save that for the following week where we'll do something in perspective. I can walk you through that. This is so fun! But I didn't want to scare you off the bat. Okay, I probably wanted to mask this because it was going to be lighter. So at this point, I'm just going to paint right up next to the line and below it. Isn't it fun too to just use the 4 colors that you have while you're getting familiar with color mixing? And these are really great colors for landscape painting and architecture, which is all made from man-made objects. Okay, this is going to be a lighter brown, so I didn't bother dipping it into the paint. I just used what was left on the brush. This is a big, what do you want to call it, a bush that's sleeping in winter, right? It's going to come alive in the springtime. But I'm going to go ahead and just draw in what I see of the bush behind the fence so that the fence stays white. And here we go. Add a little more blue to that ooky brush. And I'm gonna just pull on it with my aquarelle. Isn't that fun? Take some of those bushes. Okay. Alright, the next thing I want to do is come over here and make sure that I got a bottom to my barn. And this is going to be a wooden door. So I'm going to put some lines on the wooden door. Okay, see how fun that is? And let's just go ahead and put a line under the eaves along the snow line. I think doing architecture is really fun. And I picked something very simple like a barn because it's recognizable to all of you, and you probably have a barn picture or two in your stash, or it's easy to find one. Whereas finding the Taj Mahal might be a little bit more challenging to find and to draw. Okay, so I'm getting my first layer of the browns on there for of the actual barn. And I'm waiting for that sky to dry just a little bit more. It's gonna be great, right? Okay, so let's go back now to the sky. I don't have to touch everything. I want to kind of make the sky be a little more dreamy, so I'm gonna leave some baby blue spots and just put in a few more of the phthalo blue. In the depths of the clouds, maybe under this cloud. Yep, I like that. Oh, I like that. So I think the temptation is to go ahead and darken this up. And you don't want to do that, because as this starts to come alive, then you've got contrast between your sky and the dark barn. So I feel like sometimes we just feel like we have to make the sky so blue because we want to get something on the page, and we haven't yet finished the dark things in the picture. So it's called patience. We have to just be patient. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting another layer onto my trees, and of course I'm going to get them to be a little more twiggy. I think it needs a little yellow in there. A little dark for me. Take my sponge and kind of lighten that up a little bit. Painting kind of in between some of the scratch marks that I did before. No, I haven't put the tree in yet. I'm going to start more weathered barn. See, it'd be crazy for me to have tried to use masking on every little line. So I just they call that just painting right up next to the line. fun. Nice little gray barn going here. I put that sienna brown with my blue and yellow, mostly the brown, very watered down, and now I'm using a lot more blue in the same mix. And as it goes over as a second coat, it gives it that bluish tint. It's picking up the color in the before. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fill in some of these dark doors because it's probably going to take me a couple of coats to get to that. Look at that. I can't wait to see what you're working on. Where your barn is located. Do you know there's so many different barn types? I'm going to show you some pictures of those. I know that looks really dark, but that's the darkest thing in my entire picture, so I'm just going to go ahead and let it be dark. I'm not going to try to use my sponge to lighten it. It's really dark up under these eaves. Really dark. Really dark under there. Okay. So I think what I could do is go ahead and now put a red mixture for my barn. Red, blue, sienna. So this is gonna make it a little bit warmer. This is my third pass. I'm making this wood a little different color. One, because I forgot about it the first time around. And two, it gives me an opportunity to do something a little different. Maybe it's different wood right there. How fun! Yes, I could have waited till this dries and put a dam around the dark blue, but I don't care if my barn color gets in my dark blue. See what I'm doing here? And we keep on doing this dark color over your barn doors, all the beaded board. getting a little yellowy in there, so I'll put some of that in there. Okay, I left this guy out. I'm not really sure why I did that, so let's go back and try to pay attention to this barn door. I think this is where they throw the hay in or store it up for later. This is a great brush, the number 6, because I can make these fine little lines, and I can flatten it and make a big fat line. Make sure you're always looking at your picture. Don't try to make it out at this point of the game. Being a good artist means you're observing a lot. Then you can pull from your muscle memory and your memories. Alright, so now I'm just going back and refining. I'm actually drawing some fine lines along the eaves. Okay. And I'll draw another fine line after I've rubbed off the masking along this line. Okay, so not to be ignored. This surface does have wood too, wood planks, but I had to get it really dark first before I did that. And this side's a little lighter, so that's why I didn't give it as many layers over there. Okay, there's a tiny little eave over here. I think you're getting the gist of this. That it's a process. It's very, very relaxing. Just turn on some classical music. I like to pick music that doesn't have words, so I stay in my right brain. Of course, I'm using my left brain right now talking to you all. And that is difficult to do, talk and paint at the same time. It's a little more blue in there. I'm gonna have to get some blue up. Some more blue on my palette. I'm borrowing from some other little trays that I already had some things poured from other projects that are the same colors. They're the same, exact same colors from our last week. So I'm just going to use up that paint so that I'm not wasting. Okay, I'm just going back over with another layer. There's a tiny little chimney in here. Alright, so let's work on some fence posts. So I've got one here, one here, one here. These are just those gates that just kind of keep the horses in. A lot of fine line work, right? When you're doing architecture. I'm barely hitting the paper. A lot goes a long way, just having that little bit of color on there. Don't have to be perfectly spaced. Especially if I built the fence, I would not have them probably measured as accurately. Okay. Now I want some of this wood to come down into near the fence, below the fence. And there's shadows going on under there too. Dipping straight into the blue, but as it's going over the brown, it's changing it quite a bit. Lots of little line work in that barn, that rustic barn. I'm going to take this and use it as an outliner. I hope you've had ease mixing your colors. Just the three, you know, the yellow and the blue making the green, and then I could make orange with the crimson and the new gamboge. I can make the purple like I did here with the crimson and the blue, and of course the sienna, when I add it to the blue and the purple and a little bit of yellow, I get this really dark brownish color. So I'm going to use it to make really thin lines. I can use it too to drag. Really weathered. Isn't that fun to kind of scrape at it? Kind of give it some character through the years. that kind of dry for a little while. Move to a different area. Work on the trees. Okay, so I have this tall tree. It's coming up. It's gonna meet this little piece that I put in earlier. And I got a scraggly of a one coming in here. So I'll let that dry for a little bit longer too. And let's kind of go back up to the sky area. It's really more of a purpley sky. There's a tree line back there somewhere. I'm gonna wash my barn with a little bit of purple. A couple of areas. Just to give some distinction of some shadow fall onto the barn itself. Go ahead and put some more brown on the tree. Yay! I can't wait to see what you're creating. Okay, let's see if I can actually rub off some of this. So I'm going to take the time to rub off some of my rubber cement here. And I am masking. Yes, I got a little bit of paper pulled up here. Be careful when you're messing with that. Just go over it real lightly with my gum eraser to kind of file it down. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to start putting some shadows in to the ground. Purple shadows along the fence line. Go ahead and get those going before I finish the trees off. Well, looks like there's a little bit of shadow over here. And this looks like it needs a little more purple next to the house. Now that everything's rubbed off, I can kind of see now where I need to add a little more depth. Yeah, it's fun, it's fun, it's fun, it's fun. There is a tiny line right across the top of the barn. The barn edge. that wind that was blowing through there. Blowing the snow right off. Just lifting it right off. Alright, so it's time to get some contrast going onto the actual barn. I've let things dry, so as you can see, I really need to pop up a lot of the contrast. I need to get the tree darker, keep going over the eaves, inside the little insets, the interior of the barn, maybe add depth to the background, and really darken up that fence line, and shade and shadow. So we'll get started. And again, I have a rigger, I have my 1/2-inch brush, and my 6 is somewhere. Well, I can use this 6, that'll work just fine. I'm not sure. Alright, so let's get started. Got some clean water. When you take those breaks, make sure you get some clean water too. Alright, so we're ready to keep on rolling here with those dark areas as we mentioned. So let's go. I'm using my number 6. I have taken some of my yellow, some of the red, and some of the blue. So I'm getting that darker area that I need. Let's put a little bit more blue in there. As you can tell, I'm out of blue. So I only pour as much as I need. And the reason I have these 3 palettes here is because they were from last week's project. And I'm just going to use them up. Okay. So let's put that extra dark brown right on top. And one side of the tree is going to be darker than the other side of the tree. This is going to be the light side, so I want to make this side darker to make it look 3-dimensional. This will be darker on this side of this branch here. I like how some of the masking went right across the tree trunk, and I want to keep some of that. That's what I call a design bonus. I like design bonuses. Okay, I'm going to go up the eave another time. It's nice after it dries because it's not going to keep running and mixing with everything else underneath. It's completely dry. And that's what you've got to be patient about with watercolor. You know, you can't just sit down once and think you're going to get it all completed in one sitting. Besides, it's good to take a break every 50 minutes for sure. Get up and take a 10-minute walk. And not only that, you get fresh eyes when you come back and look at it. Because what might have been frustrating to you before now does not seem as frustrating. A little bit under the eaves there. See how easy this dark brown's going on now that it's completely dry? all of you have found a really nice photo, maybe one you took on a vacation. I like kind of this more greenish brown coming into being here because it kind of tells me that there's a lot of mold and weathered mildew taking over the actual cypress and red oak that the barn might have been made out of. Okay. Just some kind of gate or something right in front of it. Let's go over here to this tree. Again, don't make the whole tree the same color. One side needs to be lighter than the other. So think about where your light source is coming from. This is a strange tree, I know. Alright, remember this Aqua L. See if I could start dragging some of that to make some interesting crazy oak tree trunks, tree limbs. I can use my rigger to get some really fine lines. I really want that darker. Some more blue in that. Thank you for all your suggestions, by the way, through the former classes. Keep those suggestions and comments coming. You can type them right into the YouTube video, or you can put them into Google Classroom. If you have a thought or an idea, something you liked, or maybe that you would like to see me do differently, or make a suggestion, especially for those of you who watercolor is your medium of choice, you might have a favorite brush you want to suggest. I know my last class somebody suggested a lovely masking type product that is on the market, and I guess the word got out because I tried to order some and it's back ordered. Guess I'm gonna have to go in person and pick it up. So I'm using this rigger brush. I don't want them all to be kind of in the same direction. This is a crazy tree over here. So I'm gonna have lines going every which way and some going down. You could use a twig to draw with. You could go outside and find a little stick and just drag the paint. You might have to keep loading the twig. Of course, you won't get as many strokes. See, I can pull some of that brown paint from the beginning, which I love, so it's kind of mixing with the darker brown.
Just that blue right over the brown makes it darker. It's just peeking into the scene. So, and then you're gonna have tiny little sprouts coming way up here. They're gonna bud soon. It's nice to do a cool toned or a seasonal winter scene when you're in the middle of 113-degree heat. And you can just have not much pressure on your brush, so I'm just using my arm muscle now to create all these little wispy limbs, twigs. They get kind of ghost-like, you know? Okay, so that tree is coming along just nicely. So in the background, I want to put some depth in some of these trees along the snow line. Like you could go into the magical forest beyond and find something. But don't get too dark back here because that is way back in the back. So atmospherically, it would look lighter on the horizon. But I want to break up that plane just a little bit. I also want to break up the plane a little bit. Maybe there's a snowbank right in there. A few horizontal lines. Same thing over here. I want to go a little bit deeper along the snowbank for shadowing and depth into the forest. A little bit darker on this side of the fence post and in that little crevice there. I see one little rogue hair. I'm going to dip my brush in the water because I saw one hair just sticking up. Okay, so now is our time to start thinking about shadows. Some of these a little bit darker. More weathered than others. Get this a little bit darker. You can do this. It's just all about practice. It's like a double fence in there. Keep all the critters out. Okay, we're almost ready to go over here to this side. Get this tree looking mighty fine. Yes, you can talk to yourself. Encourage yourself because there's nobody else around to do it for you. And because you're having a joyful time just creating. Doesn't mean it has to win awards or go somewhere. Part of it's just the journey of doing. And if it does bring joy to someone else, if you decide to give it away, sell it, whatever, then it's done its duty double fold, right? If you took my landscape class, we worked on trees and foreground, background, atmospheric changes. We even had fun with color, warm versus cool. So if you're interested in that class, I can let you know more about that. Okay, I think I've got enough with this brush. I need to switch back to my rigger. A lot of these are kind of blowing that direction in the wind, like they got frozen in time. I kind of like the direction of that. It kind of goes with the whole theme of the wind blowing. So I'm just going to go with that. Your trees don't have to be up in the air, right? There are some right behind the barn. Kind of dot those in there. They're kind of sprouting out back there. I know, how many times have I gone over this Eve? But it's really the darkest thing in the picture, so we really got to keep going over that. I want that stark contrast between the snow and the eaves. Now you can see I'm just putting a little bit of an L shape in here to create depth. So it's not just a square, but it has depth and dimension. In fact, I think this is going to be the floor of the barn, and everything else in here should be even darker. Ooh, I got a lot of blue on that one. No worries. Just kind of smudge that around there. It's already going to pick up on the color underneath by activating it, getting it wet. Okay, so there looks like there's almost like a little bit of hay going on in there. A little bit darker here. And along the snow line, and there's something like a stick or something in the ground there. Something melting right there along the tree line. I think these limbs need to be a little darker. And last but not least, this little guy. Needs to be darker. I'm painting around that limb because I want that limb to kind of bust through there. I better make up some more brown. I keep running out. I'll dirty up the tree a little bit. Yes, I still need to rub off those two little things right there, but I'm going to get some dark around them real quick. There must be some kind of crevice right there where the snow's collecting. There is kind of this piece of wood just sitting against the barn. I'm just going to put that in there. And there is an outline around this opening, so I'm going to go ahead and, like, it opens, and it has a hatch on it. or a hinge. There's a little hinge there. And I guess this one does the same thing. And you could put little doodads and things into your wood. You can scratch them in, you can just point them in, like dirtying up your barn a little bit so it doesn't look so pristine. It's weathered, it's been weathered many storms, it's a shelter. Gotta go at an angle. This is the side. It actually is turning right at this point. So I gotta treat it a little bit differently. We're gonna be talking in the future about perspective, so get ready, it'll be fun. Okay, all right, so let's put in a little bit of shadow. I'm gonna use my number 6. I'm gonna use some of this purpley blue that I had already mixed up. And I've already got one little layer of shadow going on here, but maybe I want a couple of splashes really lightly. Like these are other trees that are casting something in the snow. I need some over here. Maybe like little footprints in the snow. Maybe there was a cow over here or a fox. Put that in there. And I need to go back above. I might use my rigger again right along that line. I'm going to put a few more shadows. If I had white, I could come back now and I could use a little of the opaque white and put it along the parts of the tree that I did not mask at the beginning because I wasn't even really sure where my tree was going to be. So we'll discuss that at a different time. Okay, I'm going to clean off my rigger. I'm going to just gently put it into some of that purpley blue. See if I can't. Actually, I want it to be more blue than purple. Some shadow right here, behind the fence. And of course on the barn itself. This is like a big overhang, that's why the snow collected right there. So I need to put in a shadow. I made it a big blue shadow for some color. I need some color in this thing. Let me put some blue into this too. Entire tracks. I need some blue into this tree too. You know me, I like colors, so. Right under where it attaches to the trunk. I need a little darker there. Right there where it attaches. I'm just using straight on blue on top of the brown. I still have that tiny little rogue piece. If you get a little rogue piece like that, I think because he won't lay down, I'm going to pull his hair out. He's just not cooperating, and I don't want to get that little streak flailing with color on it somewhere where I don't want it. Okay, I think I've gone over this area like 50 times, around the eaves. And a little bit of pathing going on there. I need to make sure the floor of the barn is definitely darker in there. Isn't that fun? Okay, you guys are probably having a blast. You have to be having fun. All the details. I got a big line going across there. Any more details I'm missing? Oh, there's a shadow coming. That's interesting. Or maybe it's a rope of some sort. But let's put it in because it just looks cool having another line across there. I like it. Anything else I could do? You are the artist, so I think I can sign it. And voila, you now have a landscape picture with a barn. So keep enjoying your artwork, do lots of fun with it, and I look forward to seeing yours. Have a great day.